All right, they coming in, Coach. They coming in.
Yeah.
Another big show tonight. Another huge guest. And, of course, another Johnny Cole friend.
Special friend.
Special friend, I get you. Coach, you know everybody in the HBCU landscape, don't you, man? I have met many people that you don't know.
Man, I tell you what, Coach, it's just been one experience, coming down from Ohio down to the South and not knowing nobody, man. And it's just been a blessing from God to give me that opportunity to go play football and basketball and just meet a whole bunch of folks, man. And that brown ball, man, on TV all over, practically coached the world. I coached over in Hamburg, Germany as well, man. And I can't say enough about the blessings that I've been and have been receiving.
All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to HBCU Coaches Corner. I'm your host, Rocky Miller, along with my trusty sidekick, none other than the Bishop, the Detective, Stephen Campbell, the Rattler. Don't ever forget that he's FAMU first, FAMU all the time.
Well, all you gotta do is tune into our show. You'll know. Look, we know them up and down, baby.
With no further ado, our featured host is none other than the SWAC legend himself, the 2010 SWAC Coach of the Year, the SIAC Coach of the Year, none other than my main man, Johnny Cole.
Man, I like that. I like to hear that sound, bro. Man, it gives me great pleasure to be here again to bring on one of my favorites, one of my favorite people in this world, man. And sometimes when you behind the scene all the time and you see different things going on, you don't ever get the credit that you need. And, I met him long time ago. Matter of fact, him and a guy named Mr. Caraway happened to be coming into the field house. And I was a senior player. And back then, Campbell, back then, TSU and Prairie View used to play at the end of the year, every year. And Rocky, it was called the Toilet Bowl. Hell, we would be 1 or 2 and 8 or 9, and they would be 0 and 11, 0 and 10, and they would call that the Toilet Bowl. But you know what? People would show up, because it was a rival. They was up the street. And, look, I'm going to continue the story, but that was the same time I had met a guy named Kenny Burroughs. Y'all remember 00 for
Yes, sir. For these Oilers.
Absolutely.
Freshman in the dormitory, man. And I heard this guy coming down the dormitory because I'm going to get back to the story. This is part of it. Man, this is my school. Here I am. I'm 17 years old in the dormitory. I'm only 142 soaking wet. Quarterback, I was number 12 on the roster. And all these huge guys, man, and this is my school. And the voice got closer. Finally, he came in our room, and I happened to be staying in the quarterback's room with a guy named Harold Smith and Johnny Holly. And, man, I was up on the top bump because, they put freshmen on the top bump. And he said, let me tell you something. This is my school. And he said, one thing we don't ever do here, we don't ever lose the Prairie View. So now it goes back to 1995, man, and Coach, who we about to bring on, Mr. Al Walsh and Mr. Carrington, came in. They were promoters. And they was like, man, why you guys play that game at the end? We could take that game and move it to the first of the year, call it the Labor Day Classic, and we're going to put it in the Astrodome, in the 8th wonder of the world, And that's when I first met Al Walsh back in 1985. So that's been over 40 years, or close to 40 years, that I've been knowing this guy and all the great things he's done, and he's also embraced me. I call it I'm his little brother. Once again, I'm the youngest, but he let me into his organization. He showed me and told me and tell me and how they've done things, and one of the things I know, I was talking to him one day, and I was like, man, how do you do it? How do you get all these people in here, man? You know, I guess they come to see Grambling and Prairie View. He said, let me tell you something, Cole. Prairie View ain't beat Grambling in 30 years. They don't come for the game. They come for the things around the game, the pageantry.
The experience.
The experience, coach. You know what I'm saying? And that kind of told me, I said, man, that's why I like promoters, because they know their business, man. And the Labor Day Classic, which TSU and Prairie View, man, we've never, I think the largest crowd we've had was 24,000 people. But that's when they took the game. You know what I mean? And then both schools kind of separated, and now they go kind of home and home. And I get it. They cut the middleman out. But I think, and you guys will agree with me, Campbell. Of course, you've been down to the Orange Blossom City Classic, that game today should be 50,000. In the city of Houston, two schools 45 minutes from each other. You know what I mean? First game of the year, conference game, can determine who's going to go. That game should be much bigger, man. And that's why I'm a big advocate and a big fan of Al Wash, because I know, you know, if we would have gave him that chance, and it still could happen. You know, we got two great athletic directors in the Kevin Granger and the AD Golf at Prairie View. You know, I just hope they listen to the show and reach out to him. So my school, so I could go down to Houston and have a great time, you know, at the Labor Day Classic. But that's my story.
Well, let me say this before you introduce our featured guest. I want to also say this. If you're listening to this and you have a direct line to an AD or a president, he needs to see this show, because we're going to talk about the business of football, as well as some interesting stories that Al may want to share with us. But everybody wants to know about the money.
That's right.
And if you want to learn about the money, if you got some questions about the money, why the State Fair Classic is one of the biggest payouts in HBCU football, even though it's not known as a top-tier football game, the event is huge. And if there are other schools, there are other organizations that could use the big payday like Prairie View and Grambling get for the State Fair Classic. Yes. I believe one of the issues that Jackson State was having, if I'm not mistaken, Campbell, that Dion had, is that they weren't getting a payout that was commensurate with how big the game was. And so therefore Dion had a problem with the game. And so that's what led to Jackson State pulling out, if I'm correct. Now, as the resident historian, right, can you kind of frame up what's been the issue with the compensation packages around the HBCU Classics?
Well, it's simple. It's always been a problem of the promoters and the schools understanding what the value is. Because when it first started and the money's gotten so huge, and Coach knows this, it was really the schools were like, you know what, we're going to take our show on the road so we can see people. Because, again, Grambling and Jackson State and FAMU would go to all the play because that's where black people were at to recruit and to show it. So, you know, you go up there, you do a deal with a guy, and you have X amount of people, and as long as the bills were paid, you were happy. But now, as we start moving into it, as we're talking about the business side of it, we started losing money. That's what happened to FAMU and Tennessee State at the 100 Men Classic, because they were paying us $1 million to come, but they didn't cover all the expenses. And FAMU and Tennessee State was like, hey, we're putting 45, 50, 60,000 people in here, but you don't want to share in the proceeds. And a lot of times, man, a lot of these, again, and I'm just not talking about Mr. Wash, I have done promotions. So I can speak on it. I've done concerts. I have done big events outside the country and everything. You got to have an honest business partner when it comes to these things. And a lot of times these promoters are not honest business partners with these schools. And then when you dig into it, because what they'll do, hey, we'll get a president a suite. We're going to give them all the liquor. We're going to pick them up. We're going to give them a suite at the hotel. And they're happy with that. But now, man, everybody's looking at the dollars and cents. And that's really has been the problem. And like I said, Atlanta was really ground zero for that, because people were shocked when FAMU was like, we ain't coming back. Because it wasn't worth it. It wasn't worth it. And that's why they haven't had the 100 Black Men Classic since, because people like, you gonna pay us our fair worth.
Well, the man we about to bring on, Coach, is the man who put Grambling on the road. And there's a young guy. He actually had a relationship, a very, very good relationship with Eddie Robinson. And I'm gonna let him do the talking because we've sit down and talked about this a whole lot about what happens. And everybody ain't a good promoter, just like, every school can't really draw. You know what I mean? And as Al will tell you, it ain't necessarily about the game. It's about the pageantry around it. And he'll get more deep and then share the story of Eddie Robinson. Of course, everybody know, don't nobody go to Grambling. Grambling play 8 games a year on the road. And some of these games, I disagree with Dion about the Southern Heritage Classic because I know Fred Jones, the promoter up there. The problem is that that's what the school signed for. You know what I mean, Rocky? Now, ask for more money if you want more money, but don't sign for it and then turn around. And Dion was right, too, that they probably wasn't getting a big enough payout about it. But then again, on the flip side, and I want Al to come because I don't want to say all that, but you can't bring everybody in the administrative office and their wives, and then they fly and they eat the steaks and all that. The game is wrapped around, the football team, and you can't bring everybody. But
because that was the trade-off. That's what they did, so they didn't have to pay them. They let everybody come on the free ride and not pay the money.
Right, but Coach, who's signing the contract?
Well, that's
right, and you agree with it. It's on you. It ain't on the promoter. Ain't no question, Coach. A promoter is out to try to get his money.
Well,
I've been doing this game for 50 years. 50.
Well, I think I'm gonna say this, and because I know we got Mr. Wash on, I think the best partnerships is a fair partnership. That's one that'll long last. And as you can say, Mr. Wash has a fair partnership with Graham. That's why that relationship has gone on for so long. You see what I'm saying? You got to be a fair broker when you're partnering with people, because you got to make people feel good when they're signing on, because after a while it's going to happen. Just like with the 100 Black Men, same thing with the Orange Blossom Classic, things like that. If you're not an honest broker with people, they're going to take this show on the road.
No, they're not. You know what they're going to do? They're going to take advantage of you. And then you got to realize that you are. I just didn't think that we negotiate well in Black college, and I think that's one thing was Rocky was saying. You know what I mean? And you just got to negotiate better. But here's the other thing, Bishop. You appreciate this. Some of those games, man, like the Turkey, some of those games are traditional games. Now, we don't messed up the Southern Heritage Classic. Don't know how to go there. We don't messed up the Turkey Day Classic. Don't know how to go there. There's 2. We don't mess up the Orange Blossom City Classic. Nobody is showing up there. So right now we got the Magic City Classic, the Bayou Classic, and the State Fair Classic. Maybe you can add some with the Texas Southern Prairie Views Classic, Labor Day Classic. That's all we got now. We don't even have the Circle City no more, the Atlantic no more. We don't have those. But
they have the Circle City. They're playing it.
Yeah, they're playing it. Look what teams they bringing in there.
Right,
State and small schools. But hey, guys, I'm the football coach, Rocky the businessman. You Bishop, you the historian. Let's bring the real guy on. Do we got that favorite?
Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Buffer. Our great nation is shared by the biggest fights and rivalries of our lives. Muhammad Ali versus Smokin' Joe Frazier. Iron Mike Tyson versus Michael Spink. Floyd Money Mayweather versus Manny Pacquiao. And Grambling State University versus Prairie A&M University. The state of Texas versus the state of Louisiana. The world-famed Tiger Marching Band versus the Marching Storm. Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. Let's get ready to rumble!
one of the top promoters in this country. Can he come on?
Yeah, I mean he's connected out. We don't have his camera. Al, can you hear us? Go ahead and finish your introduction, and maybe he'll come get his audio straightened out.
This game is 100 years old, and this year is the 50th year for the Classic, the State Fair Classic between Grambling and Prairie View, and the man and the myth, and he's an icon in this promoter world. He's one of the ones. He's one of the lasting big time promoters in this game, and continue to do black college football games. He also does the Hall of Fame game in the NFL. He's taking over the game between Grambling and Langston that's going to be in Shreveport. And so hopefully we can get him on so we can get this thing going. Without no further ado, Mr. Al Wash.
Hear me now?
Coach.
Yes, yeah, Mr. Wash, we can hear you.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah. All right then. Come on with it then, Johnny Cole.
We don't have your camera, Mr. Wash. Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I see myself. I'm sure I mean I don't have a camera. And I was gonna hate that I wasn't gonna get on tonight. Because I hear my man over there from the Rattlers talking that stuff about promoters and just like Johnny Cole said, these people at these universities, they educate us. They're not promoters. They and when you sign a contract with a Jerry Jones or with whomever in the NFL or NBA, you got to live up to your contract, regardless if it's a good deal or not. But they always want us as the black person, they paint a picture that we are bad promoters. We're not being fair. We were fair when you was making money. You didn't have no problem. The times have changed. When the money get greater, you want more and you still under contract, and it's a way to do it. And I'm not faulting what happened in the Memphis, Tennessee. They had a contract in Memphis, Tennessee, for the Southern Heritage Classic. They got a contract with me. But my deal was I knew it was going to get to this. And I just said, fellas, let's become partners. Y'all got 100 people that you're moving. Ain't nobody moving but me and my staff, maybe about 10 people, and we don't have to go nowhere in Dallas. So I know what it takes to move a team, and therefore that's why I made my deal work like it worked, to be fair with the school, and the school take home the majority of the money. We're in a percentage deal. They take home 74% of the net profit, and I take home 24%. I tell my numbers.
Yeah.
I ain't got no problem with it. And as long as they are making Grambling and Prairie View in this game that I just played last year, and it's been increasing, and I keep telling them, I'm going to increase the money every year. This is the first time that they took home $528,000 a piece. $528,000 at a conference game. And you tell me, other than maybe, because I don't know what the numbers are in Birmingham, I don't know what the numbers are in a Bayou Classic, but I know it's not a type of deal that I have, and they taking home majority of the money, and I ain't got nothing against black or white, but there's a white man promoting the game in Birmingham. I ain't got nothing against that, but they not down there down his throat, and like they did Fred Jones in Memphis, so I don't have a problem with that, but I got a problem when you talk about bad promoters and we want all the money, we want like they want, I've been doing this for 50 years and people are still calling me today and asking me, can I make a game out of a Super Bowl game, and I got Langston? Ain't nothing wrong with Langston. I'm gonna make it work. I'm gonna make it work, and they both gonna make some money.
Yeah.
And that game, they paying me a fee. I don't have nothing to do with the money. I don't have nothing to do with tickets. I'm just promoting the game, putting people in the stands. And they gotta listen to let me have an open hand to do what I know how to do it. And I can't do it like I told them. I can't do it in 1 year. Don't y'all think I'm no Superman? Give me 3 years. I gotta have some years. This thing has to gradually build. You can't just jump out there and you're gonna win the championship your first year. And when you come to coaching, it ain't gonna happen. Your show ain't gonna go #1 your first year. I'm not gonna be #1 my first year. But you give me 3 years, and if it can be done, like I told them, I can do it.
Yeah. Hey, well, Al, look, hey, Cameron, don't be saying nothing else, boy. You pulled a rock.
No. Listen. Now here's the thing. See, he proved my point. Because see, I'm gonna let Mr. Walsh rock, but let me tell you something, Mr. Walsh. One thing about me, I've been to all these classes, and what I'm gonna say, you proved my point. You just said I'm an honest partner with these schools. I have increased their payout. That's literally exactly what I just said. You have to have an honest partner as a promoter for it to work on both sides. And you literally just said that. So you actually said what I said. So that's why people will work with you. And I will say about the thing about the Magic City Classic, Alabama A&M was thinking about pulling out. And they did talk about that there was a Caucasian promoter, and was that an issue? And they are even talking about renegotiating that. So I think, honestly, what you just said is simply this. I don't have a problem with anybody. I do contracts every day. I honor a contract. But there's also, I know if I'm taking advantage of somebody when I give them a bad contract. And if you're an honest broker, that should not be what you do. Because like I said, the numbers. And I guarantee you, like you said with Grambling, you probably at one time paid Grambling $200,000. That wouldn't be fair right now, but I'm pretty sure back in the day, you probably paid them $200,000.
Now, I didn't pay them nothing. I paid them a percentage deal, just like I had.
Okay.
If they made $200,000, I might have made $25,000.
There you go.
But I mean, it's a percentage deal.
But see, other promoters do a flat fee. That's what happened.
Well, but that's other promoters. And if the school go for it, just like Johnny Cole said when he came on, when you see it's not working, then sit down and let's discuss it in like business people and discuss it. I mean, just like Texas, Oklahoma, they are already talking about that they got better facilities at home than they have at the Cotton Bowl. They got better stadiums. They got everything. But do you hear them pulling out the game? Because you know why? Because they split the gate. They get, if stadium holds 92,000 people, they get half the tickets. The other school get half the tickets. They get the TV revenue. It ain't fair. What the TV revenue, don't just say promoters, the TV revenue is not being fair with HBCU games compared to all these other big schools, They ain't being fair. Ain't no such thing as being fair. It's business.
And I think one of the things, if I could piggyback, I'm a big guy on tradition. And when we fight over nickels and dimes, man, it kills. Now Alabama State and Tuskegee, when I was there, I mean, people was hanging from the rafter. So then they start getting smart and funny with the money and counseled the game. Now neither team make any money. You know what I mean? And it just destroyed a lot of tradition. And I'm pretty sure that people in Montgomery, Alabama, that was a big thing. Now it's over and they trying to recover, but now they ain't getting nothing. They're getting zero. It's just another home game. So, I'm being like Al said, somehow they could get to the table and work that out without pulling out of the game is the last thing I think they should do.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes.
I just want to ask you something. And I didn't mean, if you want to respond to Coach Cole, you can go ahead. And I'll ask my question afterward.
Now go ahead. I remember it. I'm not that old.
No. So my point is the point that I wanted to make about all these deals, right? With the administration changing so frequently at these schools, does that have anything to do with the change in expectations of what the payout should be? Meaning that if there looks like they're rotating presidents every 4 years at some of these universities, right? And if that happens within the middle of a contract, how does that affect your ability, the school's willingness to honor the contract that they sign? Has that been an issue for you in any of your contracts?
No, because the thing is this: the presidents of these universities, when they come, they got to figure out how to balance the budgets to keep that door open at that university. Football is just a small portion of what they doing. So that's why you got athletic director, you got a business manager in the athletic department. First thing they should be sitting down at the beginning of the season and say, okay, fellas, we're gonna have X amount of games at home, X amount of games on the road. We got to go to this school on the road, this school on the road. How much is it gonna cost us to travel these schools? We're not gonna take the band to maybe number 2 of them, you know. And if you want the band, if the visiting team want the band, then they need to absorb some of the money that it costs to pay the band. It's simple, it is very simple. You're supposed to have people that you got them on payroll. They should be able to know, you just can't come up and say that, okay, for Prairie View and Grambling the same distance away from Dallas. You can't come up and say, well, for me to bring my football team, it costs me $200,000. And Prairie View or the Grambling said, well, for me to bring my team the same distance, it costs me $50,000. Well, now,
You get cook sir.
how is that a fault of the president or the promoter when they should know the numbers of what it takes to feed these kids? They should know the number what it could take to house them, bus them, and then they come up with a solid number, and then they say, okay, we need X amount of dollars to move our team. Now, if they're not doing that at the beginning of the season and don't wait till the season start, so I'm not gonna blame it on the president. I'm not gonna blame it on whoever's running the athletic department has to know what it takes to move a team.
How can
Even
the
with coaches.
expectations change in the middle of a contract,
Well,
Mr. Wash?
I mean, if it changes, then that's when you get together and you sit at the table with the person, with the promoter and the 2 schools, and you try to work it out. But then if you come to the table and you a stronghold that we gonna get more money, else we gone, then it ain't gonna happen. You'll never come to a conclusion to work the deal out.
Let me ask you this last question before I let you. Is there a such thing? Okay, let me just give you a scenario. I know in football, sometimes guys outperform their contract, and because they outperform their contract, management or ownership will say, okay, Mr. Player, you've outperformed your contract. We're willing to renegotiate, add years to our existing deal, pay you a bonus or something like that. Is that an option within the framework of a contract? If say you do Langston and Grambling, and you anticipated 25,000 people showing up, but you get 80,000 people to the game, right? And your contract has a fixed payout to those schools of whatever number, but you made a very large amount of money based on that. I understand you taking the risk as the promoter, but is there such thing as these schools outperforming their contract, which they warrant coming back to the table and getting a better deal because of they outperformed expectations?
I think there is a reasonable way of working that out. But in my case, I don't own the game. If the game go in there and do 40,000 people, Al Wash gonna get paid what's on his contract. I'm not gonna go in there and say, look, you know, y'all paying me a salary and I did this and that. I need more money. That ain't fair to the school, you know. But I guarantee you though, after my contract is up or during the contract, I can say, fellas, this is working better than we thought it was. And I did this for this little amount of money. Is it some kind of way we can renegotiate my contract? You know, Grambling and Langston, that is Grambling's home game. Grambling is paying Langston to come to Shreveport. So Grambling is going on the blocks to say, we gonna take this gamble like Eddie Robinson did years ago. We gonna take the gamble and we gonna make it work. That's why this man would get up in the morning, he'll come to the city, he reads the paper. And none of these coaches pick up the paper and see if there's anything written about the game in the paper. Eddie Robinson made sure he go get a paper on that Friday. And if you ain't got nothing in that paper about the game, he call up there and say, man, we ain't in the paper. You know, how you promote this game? You know, paper was big back then. You know, paper's not big today. Radio don't do what they do today. It's social media. It's all what y'all are doing. Things change. So you got to be able to change with the times in order to make it happen. So yeah, it's ways to come back to the table and renegotiate. And it's the same thing. And Fred Jones is a very good friend of mine. We talk probably once, twice a week or more, you know.
Fred,
And I think
Fred Jones. Tell me who Fred Jones is.
Fred Jones is the promoter of the Southern Heritage Game, which was Jackson State and
Tennessee State.
Tennessee State.
Yeah.
I think you had two institutions. You had, and this is just my opinion, you know, I think you had Dion saying one thing. You had Ashley Robinson, which is a smart athletic director, you know, because he helped the game that I'm playing in, Grambling and Prairie, get to where it is today. He was the one said, we need this, we need this. We're going to work on this end and start selling tickets on campus. You got to be able to work too. You know, it ain't just about a promoter. If I don't get the help on campus, when Ashley Robinson was at Prairie View, we were selling 10,000 tickets every year on campus. They only had 10,000 students, but we sold 10,000 tickets, you know. Now today, and my staff said, you know, it's all on us. If we don't make it happen, the schools ain't coming up with no ideas. So we got to come up with these ideas. I got to be up and down the highway and meeting with all these radio stations and social media and alumni and trying to hype up a game and get them to come. And this is our 100th year anniversary, but it's my 50th year for promoting the game in Dallas.
Yeah.
So
one thing, Al, can you tell our audience actually what does a promoter do as far as spending his money? You kind of was going through it, you know, how you getting up and down the road. What does a promoter does? Don't he front his money in the advertising, but kind of go through that?
Well, and every deal is different, and pretty much the schools had a reputation years ago, and they said the schools don't pay their bills. I don't know too many schools that can go black HBCU schools that can go to radio stations today and get credit. You know, because when they get the money goes into the general funds, and the money is spent before the bills come in, or before they pay the bill. So they're not getting no credit. I just met with a radio station today. They said, Mr. Wash, we can't give no school no credit because we've been burnt too many times, you know. And I sat there and I listened to them, and I just told them, I said, you know, things happen, you know, and you getting paid, and you should get paid for your services. But it's the same thing. If I sign a contract with the radio station and they say that they can put the people and they can sell tickets, and then they don't sell tickets, what you gonna do? You gonna tell them you want to renegotiate the contract and you don't want to pay them all their money,
Mm.
it's not their fault that they didn't sell a ticket. But it takes a person like me that I sleep and eat this, and I think, and I go up and down the road. I go meet people. I knock on doors. I go talk to the alumni chapters. You know, I tell them I need the support. You know, I'm not doing it myself. All I am is a conduit to say I can go and talk to people. So yes, to answer your all of y'all questions, yeah, everything can be renegotiated. And what a promoter does, what a promoter should be doing is setting up a budget, just like they need to be setting up a budget at the university to know what it takes to move a team. I got to set up a budget. I give the schools a budget, what I need to spend. If I go over that amount, I eat it. You know,
And that's it. When you say spend, that's out of your pocket.
I spend it, but I expect to get it back
Now,
from
do
the
the
state,
school?
from the
Yeah.
schools. Yeah.
Does the school ever want to see your finances? That
Oh
even,
hell yeah,
'cause
my books are
you
open.
know, I've been around.
I have a CPA firm that handles everything. I don't handle. I don't never get money for a ticket sale. It goes to the CPA firm, and they I even audit them.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
so
yeah. I met.
they're hired by me, the two institutions, and they're bonded. So if there's a discrepancy in something, we can sue them. You
Right.
know, I mean, I'm gonna be on the school side.
Well, what I was getting to too was, of course, I've seen a lot of games that go belly up in out of Chicago. You know, this promoter pops up. I mean, even the Southern Texas Southern game. Remember, we talked about that they were actually having in Dallas, and you know, of course, you own Dallas, and do the schools, you know, ask you for a financial report of, okay, you want to. It's almost Campbell, like the guy came with the $300 million endowment and nobody knew who he was. When these promoters come to these schools, do they ask you for a financial spreadsheet of, can you handle, you know, or can you financially do what you say you're going to do to promote this game?
They should be asking that question, and they
Right,
should find out the individual that they hired. You know,
right.
to find out if he has that type of track record. You don't take somebody to do a $1 million deal, and they haven't had no more than working with a $10,000 deal. You know, you got $1 million on table. You know, for a person that's been making $10,000 on the table, it's gonna be some sticky hands on that table. Trust me. You know,
Let, let,
and I mean, it's just the way it goes.
well, let me ask you this, Mr. Watts, because this is a cultural question. I don't know what, because I don't hear these conversations around other bowl games, other Texas shootout, any of those things. Why is the money in classics such a point of contention for everybody around? Because you don't hear these conversations about the world's biggest outdoor cocktail party, the Red River shootout. You don't, and I know those are big white institutions, but those are big games that are played at neutral sites that have went on for 50 years. And the framework of the contracts and the money are never an issue. It always seems to work out some kind of way. Why is it in our culture such a challenge to keep those very important events going?
Well, just like where I was getting ready to go with it before my man said, you can let Johnny Cole, and I said I can answer his question. Texas OU play the game in the Cotton Bowl every year, and they got a stadium just as big as the Cotton Bowl. If they play the game at Oklahoma or Texas, they're gonna get one payday every other year. But if they play the game in the Cotton Bowl every year, they got a payday every year. Why would you not play a Labor Day Classic or any other type of classic in the same location that you can get paid every year It don't make sense to go. I'm gonna speak on the Labor Day Classic. You got when Prairie View does the Labor Day Classic. I think it's my understanding that Prairie View can make more money when it's their year than what Texas Southern make. Now, I've never been to the Prairie View home stadium that they use downtown because I was always told, Al,
You
you
mean
don't want to go.
Texas Southern
I mean
Stadium?
Texas Southern, yeah, Texas Southern Stadium, because it's made for soccer. It's round. You can't get any air in there. You know,
Parking is crazy.
is parking is crazy. You know, it's just very difficult. You know, so I've never put myself in a position to go and try to walk that far and sit in that kind of heat and be miserable. But when we were doing it at the Dome, you had plenty parking and you had air conditioning, you know, and you was making money. You know, I know the money, if I had the game today and still in the Dome, trust me, it would have been bigger than the Dallas game and bigger than the Bayou Classic
Mm,
in
mm.
attendance and money. If I had an air conditioned place, you know, you come to Dallas and the visiting side of the field up until about the first end of the first quarter, it's pretty much empty other than the loyal fans sitting in the sun. The shade come over and you see people just flocking to that side of the field, you know, because we going out and party after the game. We're not going to the hotel and shower and getting dressed. And Dallas closed down at 2 o'clock. You know, most clubs and things. And we were having the game, and you're in the world's largest fair. Well, the game was back in the day was at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock kickoff, and by the time you get out of that traffic, you know, if you go to the hotel, you only got an hour left, and you're gonna pay $25 to go to uh, uh, a club for 1 hour. That's why them kids would be sitting out on the parking lot. It'd be problems out. You know, you gotta think about the crowd and the culture of the people you're dealing with. You know, all Texas OU people gonna do is get drunk, and they come early in the morning. They drunk when they wake up. They drinking beer, and they sell more liquor and alcohol in that stadium than any day of the 30 days of the fair. So
Wow.
what did that tell you? They getting drunk,
Let
you
me
know.
let me let me run this. I see a lot of our listeners are, they talk about that you don't own the game, and the schools got to know their value. And one of the things you taught me that made sense was it ain't about the school making a value. When it comes to a classic football game, it ain't necessarily about the game. It's about what's around it. And I think that's what you good at. Can you talk about that as well? Because I
Well,
remember the story you told me about Prairie View ain't beat Grambling in 30 years at one time.
and people always wondering why we can still put people in the stand, and even I turned down ESPN, BETs, and all of them, and want to put the game on TV. Why would I want the game on TV and it's gonna be a blowout and everybody across the country see that blowout? They ain't gonna come to the game because they never experienced being at a game like this. They didn't know that Thursday night we have a reception for VIPs and alumni, you know, at the airline, at the airport, at the hangar. It's private, you know. And then on Friday night, all alumni chapters and hotels are packed, parties everywhere, every club is packed. Then the game itself, we have a pregame concert, we have a postgame concert, and then you got the bands, which is some people says is more people come to see the halftime show than they come to see the game. You
Now,
got
do
the
they have
world,
Battle of the Band on that Friday, Coach?
huh?
Do they have a battle of the Band on that Friday as well?
They have a battle of the bands on that Saturday morning.
Okay.
But it's high school and the universities are making an appearance, but we keep it short, and they don't see the same thing that they'll see at the game. You know, at the game, they showing out to try to outdo the other one. You know, out there they might be standing in one spot playing and, you know, and maybe make a circle or do something simple, but you got to throw down when you get to that halftime show at the Cotton Bowl or any classic game.
Right.
So you go to the fair charge $20 to get just in the fairground. You can go to this fair every day for a week and never see the same thing. That's how large it is. You got 400,000 people on the fairgrounds that day of the game, and they're not all black. So so now you done built something up, and you got all this for a value of $40. I mean, back in the day, we started out there. I remember the tickets were $7, $10 then, but we wasn't in the fair every year. And the fair came to us, it's kind of like a leap year. When the years falls, we'll be in the fair one year and then we'll be out of fair the next 3, 4 years. Then we come back in the fair maybe 2 years, be out of fair 4, 5 years. And the fair came to me and said, look, would you like for this game to be in the fair every year? I looked at my numbers, and the numbers was greater in the fair than when we was out of the fair. So I said, yeah, I'd like for it to be in the fair every year. And that's when things start changing, because now you can take advantage of the marketing of what the fair does and what I do. When you take the dollar that I spend and all the promotion and the advertising and the marketing that all these radio stations do throughout Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, it's over $500,000. If I had them $500,000, all 3, 4 of us on this here screen right now, we can go and do what we do and have a big audience. If I had $500,000 to market us.
So my ticket to the game is also my ticket to get into the state fair. So
Get
I
into
can
the
go
state
club.
fair, see 2 concerts, see halftime show, and ride and do whatever you need.
Hey,
to
you
do.
can get everything but a turkey leg with that ticket.
Yeah, you got to buy a turkey leg. That turkey leg might cost you $15.
You know, Mr. Watts, I was your guest last year, and it was a tremendous event. We got a chance to experience the Jack Daniels VIP experience, which was absolutely sensational. And of course, the thing that struck me about the game is that the game, it was a very exciting game this year. So, you know, the game was a great game.
5 overtime.
But the amount of people that was interested in just the band competition, and because I'm not an HBCU guy, so I have to accept that. But people actually look at the band as a competition. Is that unique to the State Fair Classic, or is because people got out there and there was a huge debate in the VIP area of who actually showed up who. And there were Grambling people there, lots of them. There were lots of Prairie View people as well. But is that something that you created, or is that something just part of HBCU culture?
I think that's part of HBCU culture, you know, but it takes somebody like me to take it and market it. The thing is, we market that to the people to let them know you come and make a decision on who won the halftime show. The schools never let me have judges and say, okay, this team won and this team won the halftime show. Band directors don't like that. They don't want me to do that, you know. But I said, well, okay, you the fan, you make the decision on who won. You know? So there's ways to do everything if you're a promoter and you get creative, but it's a little bit different ball game today. And like what I'm doing this year, people say, well, what are you gonna do for the 50th? Come and see. Yeah, we gonna be Guinness Book World Record, boots on the ground. You know, we gonna be partying. I got Southern Soul guy that is gonna play, and brother, we gonna be throwing down. You know,
Any way you can bring Fantasia back, because the year you had Fantasia in a pregame concert, that was one of the most exquisite concerts I've ever seen. I don't know how many years ago was that, but I know my nephew was playing in the band, and it was a tremendous concert that she gave. So if you
well,
can
the
get
thing,
Fantasia back sometime soon, I'd really appreciate that.
well, you know, not only we've had so many artists to perform. I mean, Fantasia was great, it was super great. We had Christina Aguilera and Destiny Child together performing at before the game. That and you couldn't see nobody but people, black and white, as far as you could see. I mean, people had their kids on their necks, you know, trying to see what the little kids could see. I mean, it was stupidly ridiculous, you know. So I mean, but you got to be able to market the show that we have in this year. I can't say who it is, but we will make an announcement on June the 18th who that talent is going to be.
Can I
And our
show? Can I
tickets,
show? Be one of the ones, first one to announce it as well.
you can be one of the first one, you know, because then I'm waiting to June 18th and June 20th, our tickets go on sale. And it don't even matter to me. We never really advertise tickets going on sale. We got a general admission house. Every ticket is at the 50-yard line. But boy, look at here. They're gonna be buying them tickets. And we think, I think, I think I can hit 75,000 people this year.
Yeah. Coach, I want to pivot. I mean, I know you came in here on blast, and
Because I was listening to my man from FAMU, you know,
hey,
I couldn't help but come and defend.
Campbell hadn't had a chance to, yeah, he hadn't had a chance to meet you, so you know he'll come. Put your calendar count for Dallas.
Oh no! Listen, Mr. Walsh is a fine man. Listen, but I think this is nothing personal, but there are questions that people want to know, and
Right.
I also know other business. Again, I was around some of these things. Why these things don't get executed? So he has a. I tell you what, Coach, you go ahead and bring it back to me. That's what because you're getting ready to pivot.
Yeah. Because what I wanted to do, Coach, because this is your time. 50 years, Al. You know, you've done a lot for Black college football. They, you know, behind the scenes, how you donate, and you know, you got some donation at Prairie and all that. You know, how did you start? I know, you know, you. Let's start with the Eddie Robinson story. You know, people don't know that you knew him personally. You know, he kind of really got you going in the right direction. Can you start kind of talk right there with how you started and when Eddie Robinson came into your space?
Well, let me say this. There was a company that was promoting the game before I got involved in the game. And the school sued them. It was a Pace Management out of Houston. The school sued them to get out of their contract because they had the Space City Classic in Houston.
Yeah.
They had the Bayou Classic. They had it wasn't the State Fair Classic. It was just the classic there in Dallas between Prairie and Grambling. And back then, I think they were doing maybe about 17,000, 18,000 people, which was a lot of people back then.
Now, Coach, can I step in? Now, the Space City Classic was the largest classic, 75,000 people. They were the first. Grambling and Texas Southern was the first football team that sold out the Astrodome. And that's why I was saying about negotiation. And then we disbanded that game. Shit, you can't get 5,000 to see Grambling and TSU play. But go ahead, Coach. I want to squeeze that in. I'm sorry, Al. Go ahead.
And when that happened, Eddie Robinson and a man named Brutus Jackson, they came to Dallas and they sat and talked. But first, Eddie Robinson came and he said, son, he said, if you can put people in the stands like you're doing with Prairie View and they can't win a game, just think what you can do with us. We winning. He said, I need you over here at Grambling. And it wasn't like nobody was paying me a salary, but I mean, hey, I'm a young guy and he's a legend. And I'm sitting there listening to this and he want me to come to work with him. and the business manager at that time, he said, Al, let me say this to you now. He said, we don't have no money to pay you. Now, Coach Rob is, I mean, I didn't know Coach Rob, but I just knew that if he's saying this, I believe that he's going to live up to what he said, you know. And Coach Rob said, you just come, I'll work it out. And he went found a sponsor, a donor to pay me to come in there and do that. And it was all history then. So then he said, look, we can't play no more than 3 home games. We need to take a game and put our games on the road. So I need you to go find places for me to go. I said, dang, And that's when I end up looking at places to go. There was already talk about New York. They had New York and Howard Cosell did that deal and
And
had
Coach,
George.
you had the Grambling Morgan State game where they
I,
had over 70,000.
they had that game in place because Howard Cosell
Yeah.
introduced Eddie Robinson to George Steinbrenner, and George Steinbrenner put up the money to bring them to town.
Wow.
We
Wow.
don't know how that was negotiated. Just think about what money George Steinbrenner made off that game. Don't nobody really know. Ain't nobody asking that question, But the thing is, and then he said, okay, we got this game. I went to the Silver Dome with a game. I went to uh, I played. I'm probably the only living person that have done more classic games than anybody. Period. I done played the Silver Dome in Detroit. I played Soldier Field in Chicago, and this is with Eddie Robinson. The NFL changed their ruling to say no college games the day before NFL game because it rained so bad at our game. We tore up the field, and all there on TV they were talking about it. But I mean, that was a mistake they made. They rented the stadium to it. I mean, I played the Astrodome. I played Grambling played with me promoting SMU back when they had Craig James and Eric Dickerson you know, and even they didn't know what they had. And I told them, I said, look, we need to sell some tickets in the black community. The man said, well, okay, we'll give you some tickets. And he gave us some tickets to sell in the black community. The night of the game, and who Johnny was talking about, my partner at that time was
Wayne
Dwayne
Carrington.
Caraway. And we came to the stadium with an army duffel bag filled to the top with money. And we just, we ain't thinking nothing. We some bad brothers. And we came and we brought the money up. We went into the box office where SMU ticketing man was, and he said, okay, fellas, what is that in that bag? We said, here, we brought this to you. He looked at that money. He said, man, what y'all expect me to do with this? We said, hey, that's for my ticket sale. He said, I can't take that money. And we said, what you mean you can't take it? He said, what I'm going to do with it? I said, hey, he went called, I believe, every police in Texas Stadium to escort him to SMU to put it in their vault. And we met out there that Monday morning to count the money. And we sitting in the office, and they had ticket machines, counters, and counting all this money. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, here's a pile of money over here. We said, well, what is that? He said, that must be y'all money because we got what we gave y'all tickets for. And we said, excuse me? He said, yeah, that's not our money. Man, he said, y'all take that with y'all. I said, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's things that have happened. And then even the next year, we tried, SMU came back and said, look, can you get Grambling to come back to Texas Stadium again? I talked to Eddie Robinson. Eddie Robinson said, son, he said, that ain't going to happen. I'm going to get them in my backyard now. They scheduled to come here. we're going to play in my backyard. Well, they still got beat, but they didn't get beat as bad,
Right. Right. It's close. It's
at
very close.
Shreveport. So there's been, I've played games in Arrowhead Stadium and the Astrodome, Reliance Stadium. I played a classic game in Memorial Stadium at UT campus when they told us, y'all ain't gonna play no game. And there was some guy, and Delois Doss was the athletic director, and he went over to his desk and he put his hand on my shoulder and started squeezing it. In other words, that's telling me, son, just cool out and we'll get it worked out. And it was with Prairie View and Bishop College. Well, it was Bishop College home game, and we convinced them to let's move it to Austin, but they didn't have to deal with Bishop because they was a private school. So Prairie View, Brutus Jackson said, we'll take the game, and that'd be our home game. So they had to deal with him because he's a state-supported school. So those older white guys said, well, I guess we're going to be dealing with you anyway. And, and we did a game there. We were great in that stadium. So, it's the way to do these games and put them together. And Eddie Robinson was the man of gambling because he knew what he had. These guys nowadays, Eddie Robinson grew up at Grambling. Like he said, well, my president, he's the president, but I'm the head football coach and I coach the president. So, so I'm gonna do it the way we gotta do it. And that's what we did. We didn't do nothing but make money.
Let me ask you this, Mr. Watts. One of the schools that I think is very intriguing, I had a chance to go to their homecoming this past year, and that's Southern. Have you ever done the classic with Southern? Because they have a rabid fan base, and it seems like they would go anywhere and support their team. Have you thought about having those guys? Like the one place that comes to mind is if you could get Southern in Dallas, I don't know what time of year, against what opponent, but that would seem like that would be a sensational game.
We did that one year. We did Southern and Prairie View, and I came back and did Grambling and Prairie View. We did them both the same year. Yeah. And Grambling still outdrew Southern, and I said never would do that again.
Rocky. Southern and Texas Southern did it back-to-back years too, and it wasn't very successful. Just maybe a year or two ago, Al?
And see, the myth is that everybody says Southern traveled a lot of people. That was years ago, not today. And if it's marketed right, Florida A&M, everybody tell me, man, you go get Florida A&M, you're going to pack the stadium,
But was the event around the game? See, here again, Mr. Watts, it's a spectacle that you've created around the game. Was a spectacle created around the Southern game?
It probably was not built the way we do it, but just the fact of having those two schools should have drew more people than what it drew. And you got to look at it this way. At Grambling, they're going to go to homecoming, they're going to go to the Bayou Classic, and hopefully they come into Dallas. They're not coming to no more than 3 games, And I would think Southern, they do better at home because of the city they in, and a lot of those people, you're in a pretty good sized city. Grambling is the city, so it ain't nobody in that city. When summertime come, you got very few people that's in that city, until the kids come back on campus. So now it's not the same. Prairie View's in a rural town, but they close to Houston. So, Texas Southern should be like a Southern. They should be drawing just as well, but it's been bad blood. Things happen, and for whatever reasons, they're not a good draw.
Well, I wanted to share with our audience too, Al, that when I was the head coach at Texas Southern, one of the things that me and Al was getting together on, and he actually took our team up to Tyler Rose to play Texas College, which if we'd have brought Texas College to Houston, we wouldn't have had nobody. But when we went up there, we had over 15,000 people come to the game. And then I told Al, I said, Al, I don't want you to handle those kind of, I want you to handle my season. I guess that's when Al, you shared about, excuse me, shared with me about how you and Eddie Robinson started. Because I think just what you just said about Texas Southern, I think it should be a draw. You talking about the fourth largest city in the state, I mean in the nation, and all you asking for is 0.5%. That's 40,000 people that come to the game, or even less than that. But we don't draw, So that was one of the things.
Well, but you got to remember now, Johnny Cole was a catch. See, people don't think like I think. And when Johnny Cole came and we were doing that game, I put a commercial together, and I had that Rick James in there, cold-blooded. Boy, them people hated that.
Yeah, you helped me get fired.
Johnny Cole but so bad. I had Johnny Cole, he's cold-blooded in music play. You gotta hype him up.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to come. Either they were supportive of him or they didn't like it and they wanted him to lose. It wasn't no in between, and we knew that. But I knew what Johnny Cole meant in Houston, so we made it work. It's ways to put just little things in the commercial. I design my own commercials. I sit there and I think about it before it's written, and I would go to Atlanta, and instead of me just sending a spot off to somebody, I rent the studio in Atlanta, and I spend 2 and 3 days in the studio, and I'd have to cut different commercials because I switch them out to lead up to the game.
Did you see the opening one on our show?
Yeah, let's get ready to rumble.
Yeah.
Everybody asked us and said, what did you pay that man to do that? It wasn't like, oh man, that was a genius. That was great. Everybody said, what did you pay Michael Buffett to do that? How much did you pay him? We never answered the question. But
we always pocket watching.
And Rocky, tell me who Michael Buffett is. This cat is large.
Everybody knows who Michael Buffer is. I think Michael Buffer has announced some of the biggest fights for the last 25, 30 years. I definitely want to talk to Al about, I know he's done a lot in the promoting business, but as a promoter, there are some legends. There's some legendary black promoters. When you talk about Al Heyman and, my man Don King, who would you put on the Mount Rushmore of black promoters? I know who Al Heyman is. Many people may not. Everybody knows Don King, yourself. Did you have a mentor in the business? And if you did, share that with us. And then who would you put on a Mount Rushmore of black promoters? It doesn't have to be sports promoters, but just promoters in general.
That's a hard question to answer because Al Heyman, I think everybody you name, Al Heyman, the Don King, or me, and whoever's out there, we all had something different. Al Heyman was a smart guy. He's probably one of the smartest promoters of all, and he was young when he came in the business. And then he was smart to where he got the money from the Budweisers and all those people to come up with the dollars.
The Superfest, huh?
Yeah, the Superfest, and he made it work. So he been there. He done moved out of the concert business. He's in the boxing game, So, and everybody know what kind of money is in the boxing game. Well, the Don King, he was just a boxing promoter. He wasn't a concert, and even though he might have added a concert on, but even today, I wouldn't do a concert with the games that I do because why would I take a risk? I'm gonna make money on the game. So why am I gonna take a risk with a Fantasia or Frankie Beverly? I did one year before the Dallas game. I know I had a winner. I had Frankie Beverly and I had Charlie Wilson and the Gap Band in their heyday, and I lost money on that show. You know, the Kings of Comedy was created at the Dallas game, and the agencies, the white agencies, they always said comedy belongs in a small building. It's intimate, you know. And I said, fellas, you know, just sell me an act. I'm taking the gamble. Well, we don't want our act to play in no 20,000 seater. We were playing them in an outdoor amphitheater. That's not gonna work. And we end up, I had Steve Harvey because he was living in Dallas. I end up in after I convinced and fought to convince Bernie Mac guy to be on the show, you know, and Bernie Mac probably just told him, said, look, I'm gonna do this. You know, I had Bernie Mac, I had Bill Bellamy, I had I think J. Anthony Brown, and it seemed like I had someone else on that. And we did
It
18,000
wasn't an
people.
earthquake, was it?
No, it wasn't an earthquake. Nah. I know it was Steve Harvey and Bernie Mac, Bill Bellamy, and J. Anthony Brown. Might just been them four.
Not
And
DC Curry or anybody like that. Huh?
nah. And that did it. And then Walter Latham came along and picked it up, the idea, and I guess that after they seen that, they didn't want to deal with me no more because I did everything almost cussing them out. That y'all don't know what y'all doing. Y'all don't know black people, and you gonna tell me what black people where they gonna go? I've been black all my life, so I know what black people. I think I know, not always, but unless something happens, I got some tough shows out there right now. And with the economy being the way it is, with what Trump's doing, they're not doing as well as they should be. But it's just that time of the year. I've been doing those Mother's Day shows for 11 years straight and been successful with them. So and I do 10 shows in 3 days. Now you figure that out. And I don't play, I play Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., Baltimore, Philadelphia, Atlanta, Georgia, Fayetteville, Richmond, Virginia, Salisbury, Maryland. You know, so I play, you know, different cities and Columbus, Ohio, you know. So it's
You're also involved with the NFL as well. In the
well, and that's because of Doug Williams and Shaq Harris. When they ended up getting a deal with the Hall of Fame to make the HBCU a room in there being the museum. That's what they said, man, we done been to everywhere, been to Atlanta, we've been here, we've been in little closets, and when the Hall of Fame said, okay, we'll move y'all in here. And then Doug said, well, we need a classic football game to go with it. They said, we need a guy named Al Wash. Well, what they did, they didn't fly to me. I mean, I didn't fly to them. They flew to me to see the game in Dallas. And they sat right there in the room with me to see how I was running the game. I telling them, okay, let's kick off. You know, get that man off the field and come on, referee, let's move the game. Because one thing I want to be is I want to be on time. I hate them using the term this is CP thing.
that's
Ain't
our
no
time guy,
reason,
Campbell.
you know, ain't no reason why we can't be on time. And that's what we did, you know. So they hired me. I did a 3-year contract with them. And even today, I still book the talent for them, and I'm still a consultant for them. And I do everything that I need to do to help that game work out. Now, 2 schools have picked it up. I mean, not 2 SWAC schools, 2 conferences. I can't remember. I think it's a CIA. Johnny might know. It's 2 conferences that picked it up, and they took it and said, "We'll give you a game every year to play in this game." So now I don't have to go out there and try to pick the teams no more. So, it made it easier for them and easier for me, and all I do is I book talent. We got Dietrich Haddon, at the doing they always want gospel. I had Dietrich Haddon this year coming up. We had Tamla Man last year. I've had Marvin Sapp. I've had Fred Hammond, and the list goes on and on that we've had performing because it's free, and they would always do it downtown in a plaza that they redesigned. But this year they're taking it on the campus, well, what they call the campus, where the Hall of Fame is, and they're gonna do the concert there this year.
Yeah.
So, you got to get creative in order to make things like this happen. It's just not gonna work itself. We need people and shows like y'all to help keep talking about HBC to educate people. I had a luncheon this morning. I mean a breakfast this morning. I couldn't sleep last night because I hired a company to put this breakfast together, these two young ladies, and they said that we can do it, we can do it. I was scared to death, man, because I felt like they was qualified to do it, but with me not having a hands-on it, you know. But what they did, we invited all of my corporate sponsors that was involved with me this past year, the corporate sponsors that we're trying to get this year, and future corporate sponsors. So I had the city officials, I had the county commissioner, I had my pastor Freddie Haynes, I had Grambling PV alumni. I fed them all breakfast. We went to a black restaurant downtown Dallas, kitchen and cocktails, and it was from 9 to 10:30 before they opened up. We had chicken and waffles and eggs and bacon and all kind of juices, and I mean it was great. It cost us about $20,000. We gave everybody gift bags that left out of there, engraved 100-year anniversary items, and you know they had balloons all on the stage. We had the videos of the Cotton Bowl game and stuff during the event, and you got to be. And what Eddie Robinson always said, we can't take all the money home. We got to leave some money in the city. Other people got to make money. It ain't just about the promoter of the university. If the city ain't making money, it ain't gonna work.
Mm.
That's awesome. Go ahead.
Swash,
Go ahead,
let me
Cap.
ask you a question. I've been having this discussion with people. Talk about as you as a promoter, because there's this intrinsic word economic impact for a city. Talk about what that means to you, but also what ticket sales. What is more important to you when you hear people saying, well, the economic impact of 15, 20, 30 million dollars versus your ticket sales? You as a promoter, what's the first thing are you more concerned about? Is it the ticket sales or this economic impact, which you kind of led into there?
Well, I'm more concerned about ticket sale because the economical impact that you hear is never going to be the true number. They're never going to tell you what the economical impact is for a black event in any city, in any event. You'll never hear the right number that the city will give you because they're not going to want to say that I'm making bringing more money in the city as Texas OU. They're not going to do that. They told us our economic impact was $11 million for the weekend. We said $11 million. Ain't no sense in me arguing the point. Because I think I know how they come up in the. But then when you hear Texas OU, you hear a number like 25 million.
Well, do you get any when they say that and say do you get any benefit? Did the city say, okay, you brought $11 million in the city? Do they give you money? Do they say, hey, you brought 11 million? Do they even acknowledge that far on a financial side, or do they just pat you on the back and say, thank you for bringing $11 million into the city?
It depends on who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like you said earlier. You got to go know how to sit down as a businessman and negotiate a deal with them. The city of Dallas, they give me $500,000 cash. I ain't gonna say they just dish out 500,000.
Right.
They write a check, and that's what they give to the game. Sports Commission give me money. I got sponsors. Chevy give us money. Pepsi give us money. Uh, Gin and Juice, Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre was a sponsor of ours this past year. You know, I mean,
Jack Daniels.
Jack Daniels. I mean, we got a list of people that it goes on and on and
Now,
on.
is that because you're bringing this amount of people? Because so I would assume that is because the game
No,
is successful itself.
no, no, it ain't because it's like we add them onto our marketing.
Hmm.
They get more exposure this way than they would if they go out and try to buy a commercial. You know, I mean, if they spend $50,000 and they all over Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana, and their name is being heard, the product is being heard, they ain't gonna get $50,000 worth of advertising go all over Texas, Oklahoma, and Louisiana. So they getting something out of it from us. It's gotta be like you said, a win-win situation. Everybody gotta win. Even when we sell our tickets in the city, Ticketmaster on a $40 ticket, Ticketmaster might tack on $10 for that ticket. We
Or
tell the
more.
outlet, I got Williams Chicken and Catfish Floyd and some other places that'll sell tickets. And I say, okay, y'all can put $4 on the ticket, you know, and y'all make $4. But now they drive up to their window. They don't have to get out the car. They can say, give me two tickets to the game and a box of chicken. So now everybody they gonna make $4 and they don't have to cook nothing, they don't have to do nothing for that $4.
You
So
know,
it,
Look, Rocky, hold on, wait,
I'm
wait, wait,
hearing.
Rocky,
No,
hold on,
no.
wait, wait,
I
wait,
was
wait,
just
Rocky,
gonna mention. Go. No, I was just gonna mention. I'm here in Waco, and he's been working with the same outlet, Floyd's Audio Capital, for probably 50 years. They've had
that's
they've
right.
had Floyd has passed on and went on to glory, but still, you can get a ticket to the State Fair Classic, not far from my house. And again, these are things that's been going on for years and years and years. This past year, um, you didn't advertise with us, but you gave us a ticket pack where were able to share with our listeners and we had ticket giveaways and stuff like that. But like I said, it was a great opportunity. You not only get the money, but you also spread the money around as well. Because I know the number of radio stations, even a radio station here in town that you did advertise with. You
Now
bought a package with
what
them.
station I didn't advertise with? You done threw that out there.
No. It's KWBT.
Get on him.
KWBT.
Get on him, Al.
No. KWBT. You advertise with the hip hop station. And Roy Gillis, my partner, talked to you about it, and you explained why you did it and everything. But
Well,
You,
and
you,
probably
you met him
because
this
of that.
past. You met him last year on that Monday when we came
Right,
out.
right.
Yeah,
And
you
probably
met him.
when I do something like that, I got a reason because I got to keep the game young
yeah,
because
absolutely.
the alumni chapters, they going to come, a graduate from one of these schools, they might come 4 out of the 5 years after they graduate. The longer they stay out of school, it becomes less. The older they get, it becomes less. So I got to get young people to keep coming to this event to buy tickets for this event. And that might have been just that year that I said, okay, we're gonna go the young route, for this event. Now, radio ain't doing like I said earlier, newspaper not doing what they used to do for. We used to buy newspaper, black paper, white paper, whatever. They not doing the numbers. Radio not doing the numbers that they used to be. Now it's social media. You
Digital is
know,
where it's at.
digital is where it's at. You go somewhere and I sit in these restaurants and I look at these tables and the kid is sitting there on their telephone. It could be a man and a woman, a male and a female, and both of them on their telephone looking and laughing at their telephone. They ain't even talking to themselves, you know. So it's digital. Today, and I'm in Shreveport right now. I bought digital and I bought it for Waco and Killeen I sell 2,000 tickets on Killeen Army Base.
Mm.
Because those people come from all over the country. They hear about classic games, mixed marriages, and they want to see. They want somewhere to go outside of Killeen for that weekend. They can come to the fair. They can get there at 10 o'clock in the morning, leave at 12 midnight on $40.
Right.
See 2 concerts, a game, a halftime show. I mean,
And a turkey leg.
yeah,
No, they
get the
can't.
turkey
They're
leg.
gonna have to come out their pocket for that turkey leg.
Yeah,
That
you're gonna
turkey
have to
leg
come
is
out.
$20 now, by the way. And not if you got them for $15 up in your box suite, I'm gonna come up there and buy them next time you
Well,
have them.
I hadn't paid for one in so long, but you know what I do? I take my ice chest to Smokey John's barbecue during the course of the fair, and I tell him, I said, look, fill this ice chest up with turkey legs, and I want y'all to cook them longer than what you cook them at the fair. I want them to be tender, where I can just shake the bone like this, and the meat can fall off of it, where you can bite into it, and it just melt in your mouth. I don't want it to be, struggling like you see them at the fair, and that's what I do.
You got the
You know,
cheat code then. You got the
yeah,
cheat code.
yeah. So that's Coach. And one year, I put in the commercial. I said, Coach Robinson, we need to run the turkey leg. I mean the wishbone. I put that in the commercial. You know, he laughed about it. You gotta be creative in marketing wise.
No,
That's why y'all have different guests on for y'all show. Because that's why all 3 of y'all are different. If
Yeah.
y'all all thought the same thing, well, nobody be listening to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Watts, let
Yeah.
me ask you a question. One of the things that a lot of people, and this is what happened with the Atlanta Classic. So it sounds like with Grambling and Prairie View, so their expense as far as them bringing the team, bringing the band, that's part of your bottom line, and then you net profit after that. That's how you kind of do those guys, or they have to take their money and then use that money to pay for the band and the school and the football team to
Yeah,
get
they
there.
take. You can do it that way, and we used to do it that way when we started out, but the schools stopped that. In other words, Grambling said that look, we pay our band to come to this game. It's in their budget. The band have a separate budget to travel on X amount of games. And then Prairie View said, well, we don't do it that way. The 25,000 or whatever it was at that time, we were paying each school. So they just said, hey, we're gonna cut this out. We'll pay our own band and I don't get into, if they say they need 25,000, if they say they need $100,000, it don't matter to me, because it's a percentage deal anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, so
So
that
Coach,
so you allow them. So basically, like you say, it's a percentage deal. So if they increase the expenses, it comes off the part
yeah,
of
they
the.
taking home less money.
Okay.
I mean, it's common sense, you know.
Y'all are true partners in the deal. It sounds like to me, you had this, because I'm an entertainment business enthusiast interest. Seems like you had the same deal that Golden Boy kind of had with Floyd Mayweather's promotion company. They would do the physical promotions for a percentage of the overall revenue, rather
That's right.
than them manage the entire project and take on all of the expenses.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's Al Heyman that was over there with Floyd Mayweather, and so that's how that was designed. Because Al Heyman's he's a genius. I take my hat off for him. You know, I mean, out of all promoters, and you asked about that Mount Rushmore and all that, Al Heyman to me would be on top. Don King, everybody in their field. Don King would,
Someone mentioned Butch Lewis. I'm not as familiar with Butch. I know he's promoted some fights, but I'm not as familiar with his work as a promoter.
yeah, Butch Lewis, he was a promoter, but he was kind of like a flamboyant
Hype
type of
man is what it
promoter.
looked like to me.
Yeah, I mean, he come out there with no shirt on, with a jacket and, and all that, So I mean, he was trying to market himself more so than the fights himself.
And as we speak about that, Mr. Walsh, you've always now. I was doing my research to kind of find out who you were, anything that I didn't know about you. You are really low key, even though you do some really big stuff individually. You play the background. You're not, you're not part of the event. You're faceless almost, in a sense, when it comes to these events that you've done. Why have you chose to be that way as a promoter and not be part of? Why have you chose to play the background rather than be part of the event or your face being part of the most promotional package?
Because if I was out there and being up front, first thing people gonna say, he making all the money. He just like the rest of them promoters. I don't need no a limelight. My work speak for me, and what these schools take home. And I told them 3 years ago, I said, I'm gonna get y'all up to 500,000. I told them after they got this 528, I said, I'm gonna get y'all to 750 within 3 years a piece, and after that, I'm gonna get them to $1 million. I'm gonna get them there, and I don't think they ain't doing no great thing by taking no $1 million from Ohio State to go over there, or 900 to go over here and play one of these big schools. How you gonna take Grambling to play the #1 school in the country for $1 million? For that whooping they gonna take and how many kids they gonna get hurt, kids should be the first thing. You don't have the caliber of kids and the depth to go play no Ohio State. You going in there for the payday of $1 million, that is not the way I would want my kid to go out.
That's pimping, ain't it, Mr. Walsh?
Hey, you said it, not me.
Here's one of the things that since you opened up that wound, Mr. Walsh, about selling our kids that way. The problem also is that $1 million they get does not go straight to the football program. It goes to the general fund. And every year when you start a football program, the school loans the athletic program, $300,000-$400,000 to get it started and going. And to me, when if they're gonna do those type of games, that money to me needs to go directly, or at least half of it, directly to the football program or the basketball program. And if you do that 3 or 4 years in a row, then to me, the athletic department, or at least the two major sports, can start a season up on their feet instead of continue to borrow the money from the university. And that's kind of how it works.
Let me say this.
I think it's
that is not a good way of making it work.
Right.
And for example, I know for a fact, when Prairie shut down their athletic program, their attendance of student body went down.
Right.
And a lot of these other schools, when they shut down athletics, their attendance drop off. Because if you ain't got athletics, sports in these schools, the kids are going somewhere else. It's an experience that these kids go to these schools for. It's for homecoming. What they gonna go there for? And it's just the kids ain't just thinking about an education. You got to think about the other things, and how you come back and what you learn, the culture you learn from these schools. So when you saying they fronting them the money, hell, when they shut down athletic, just like when they shut it down at Prairie View, I had to go find me a team. I had 2.5 months, Eddie Robinson and I, to try to find us a team. He got on the phone, I got on the phone. I ended up finding Elizabeth City. And the only person I knew that went to Elizabeth City was Jeffro Pugh. He played for the Cowboys. That's the only person that I know that went to Elizabeth City. I went got Jeffro Pugh. I said, Jeffro, I need you to come work by my side and help tell people who Elizabeth City is, you know. And he did. He did everything he could. And the next year, when Prairie View came back, Coach Robinson said, "Well, I still don't want to play them because they're not giving scholarships. It ain't fair. It ain't fair to the coach. It ain't fair to the kids. You know, let's let them sit out another year and go find us another team." That's when we got North Carolina A&T. We brought them in, and Eddie Robinson said, "We'll pay them. You know, if we come up short, we just come up short on our end. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
we'll pay them. You know, just get the team out."
I,
We
I
did,
just I
and,
just
and
think that every HBCU least should have 2 to 3 classics or 2 to 3 fundraisers, and if they do play money games, that at least let some of that money goes to the athletic department, and where they keep
I
it
think all of
and
it should go
build
to
up
the
the pot.
athletics.
Yeah, to keep up the pot.
Mr. Watch, I'll say this before we get to our first off, Mr. Watch, do you mind taking a couple calls? Because we had some people that have called in. I'm sure they want to talk
Oh,
to you and
As
not
long
me.
as long as they're not like the man from Florida A&M sitting up there.
Hey man, listen, listen.
hey,
We
hey,
brag
Rocky,
different.
we
Hey,
did it.
Al, let me no, Al. You know what? Let me tell you what's funny. I got a couple of texts. I'm doing you like Rocky do all my guests when they come in. So I had to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable, like he does everybody that comes in for me. So I had to
All
make you
right,
feel a little
all
bit
right. Well,
uncomfortable.
come
Hey,
on with
that
some calls.
usually
Uh,
is Rocky's situation, not the bishop. But go ahead, Rocky. If we got some,
all right.
love that.
Caller, you're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from?
Hey, I'm a friend of Scott. He calls me Wick. Mr. Campbell and Mr. Cole and Rock. Thanks for letting me on.
They call you Witch.
Mr. Wash, Wake, Wake.
Oh, Wake. Okay.
That's what
Sorry,
Scott
sir.
is. Yeah. So, Mr. Wash, listen to the show, enjoying the things you're sharing, and I always talk to Scotty about events and marketing and whatever. And I worked in sports marketing myself. I worked at I was the event director, and I worked at the Southern Heritage Classic out of Memphis. And I managed Conference USA, SEC games, and what have you. So one issue I wanted to bring up, a lot of people don't know about, is that some cities, and I know this occurred in Memphis, when Jackson State, Tennessee State played, when they played, people were saying that, oh, there wasn't enough money on the table and whatever. That's why Jackson State stepped down or whatever. A lot of people don't realize that a lot of corporate support comes to the schools because they play in the game. It may not be part of the contract they signed to play in that game, but they do support the schools. For example, FedEx. FedEx contributes money to Jackson State and Tennessee State because they use it as a recruitment thing. But one reason why they do give a certain amount of money because they were coming into that classics. When both of those schools, when Jackson State bowed out, FedEx pulled back some of this quote unquote monies because they quit playing that game. A lot of people don't know about that corporate support in regards to recruiting and being part of that game that's outside of the contract. As far as your classic or any other classics, do you know of any other classics that have that same impact, that schools generate corporate support because they play in that game? Or any classic that provides economic impact to a city?
Well, I think all of the sponsors that support these classic games, they doing it for a reason. They're not doing it because of goodwill that they trying to help kids. HBCUs, they are doing that too, but I think it's goodwill in every sense. You know, the FedEx, black people ship stuff FedEx. You know, black people buy Chevys, black people buy Fords, black people buy Pilgrim's chickens, and
And State Farm Insurance.
and State Farm Insurance. So I think they I'm not gonna say they owe it to us to do it, but they should have done it years ago. And I've been blessed with my corporate sponsors. I communicate with them. If it ain't a win-win situation with them, they can buy out, and I'd be happy to work the deal out that they get their money back. If I don't do what I say I'm gonna do, you know, I mean, you got to be loyal. It ain't just a win-win, and that's what the schools don't understand. You got to spend money for these corporate sponsors. You got 60 seconds to do a radio spot. Sometimes I have to cut 2 different spots to split the commercials up to get them all on a radio spot, you know, because they want their name associated with a product that can keep the people coming in their door to spend money with them.
And
So,
that runs your expenses up.
yeah.
And now, Al, you at one time, because you know I've been there the last 20 probably, it was called the Southwestern Classic.
Southwest Airline Classic.
Airline, because I ended up winning a ticket there. Thank God for that. But and so I guess it got bigger, or you kind of moved away from a title sponsor, or is the state
No. What happened with that? Southwest called me in, and I went to their corporate headquarters, and they said, "Mr. Wash, it's not nothing you've done negative. We love participating with this game, but we did some things that we wasn't ready for. And on the West Coast, they were the #1 airlines on the West Coast. Now other airlines start coming in there and marketing and doing things. Well, they didn't have no marketing dollars for the West Coast because they was a big cheese out there for many, many years. So anybody that wasn't under contract, they lived out their contract with me, Tom Joiners, and everybody else. They lived out their contract. They said, we might be back now. I have a very good working relationship with Southwest, and they're a good airline, but you know, it just they said we got to come up with that money, and we got to come up with it somewhere. So it wasn't just our game. It was, you know, they cut out Tom Joyner's sponsorship. You know, they cut out a lot of other sponsorship, not just black, white, and everything. I took that as a good relationship between me and Southwest, you know.
Okay.
And I think I'm gonna get Southwest Airline back on board.
You remember that reminds me. You remember the year that you brought out Barack Obama at halftime? That guy was a ringer for Obama, man. You remember that, Coach Cole?
Man, that was crazy. Hey, you almost damn near walked out to the edge of the stadium where they were sitting and flipped over because everybody is looking for.
And all I was saying when it happened, I said, please don't have these people run out here on this field.
Oh man, that was crazy.
I tell you another good time too we had.
Hey Rocky, can I say something before I go, Rocky?
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Oh yeah, we do. Go ahead.
Well, Mr. Wash, you mentioned about radio being dead and whatever. I agree with you because I work radio and I work newspaper. What I do now when I help promote events,
dead now.
not the same impact.
Yes,
not the same impact. So one thing I do when I help promote events is that I use Spotify. I advertise on Spotify. I don't know if that's in your periphery. You mentioned digital. Spotify is what I go to as digital, i.e. digital radio. So I just wanted to share that.
All right, thank you for that. And I get my staff, you know, I'm still old school, but I get my staff to do a little bit more research on that.
And iHeart as well. iHeart as well. So your digital marketer should be able to handle it for sure.
So,
all right,
thanks for letting talk.
And that reminds us, we got another caller. May as well get him in right now. Caller with the last 4 of 9085. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from?
Rocky.
Hey, yeah, man. You're gonna have to turn your background down and talk to us on the phone. You can't be talking to your TV.
That'll work.
Yeah. Go ahead.
That'll work. I'm talking right now. I want to ask Mr. Walsh the difference between his market in Dallas and what he perceived the market to be in Miami when it comes to African American attendance. And then I'd like to ask Mr. Walsh, what generates more profit for him? The $500,000 that the city kicks in and those other corporate sponsors, or just the pure amount that he makes from the ticket sales minus what it costs to rent the stadium and the security and all of those expenses that comes with renting the stadium? In other words, would he make the same profit if he didn't have that big kick in from the city and those other sponsors? Because I don't think Mr. Campbell likes to question the fair way when he asked him how important was seats in the butts in the seats versus tourism and people coming to town.
You muted, Campbell.
Yeah. I'm gonna let Mr. Walsh answer that, and I'm gonna follow up with that because I'm gonna give you the background on that, Mr. Walsh.
It's Campbell's night tonight, ain't it, Rocky?
Yeah.
To answer that question, the sponsorship dollars is what made those dollars to the school make over $500,000 a piece. The school's ticket sales and the public ticket sales has been going down. We're not selling the tickets like we were selling when we've done I've done as many as 60-some thousand people. I haven't done that in a while. But and the expenses, they are great, but the city and they realize, see, I'm in the state fair. The state fair controls everything on that fairground. They pay the city one big check. So I don't go to the city of Dallas to rent the stadium. It's their stadium, but I go to the state fair and I don't pay no rent. I got a lot of things, a lot of perks because of what I'm doing. You got to look at, if we bring 50,000 people in that fairground and everybody spend $50, and that's minimum. We're already talking about turkey leg going to $20. Everybody spend $50. That's $2.5 million. Why would they charge me $125,000 or $200,000 not to rent the building when they making $2.5 million? These are the things that, as a promoter, that I know and I deal with, and I know what they're doing for Texas OU, that the university don't know, and they shouldn't be in the game of promotion.
So, Mr. Walsh, I want you to explain something too. The $500,000 that you get from the city, that's to absorb the expenses of running the entire operation. It's not money that they're giving to you.
No, it's not.
Yeah. I just wanted them to.
I don't want to be like they did Marvin Sapp. And Marvin Sapp said, close the door. Close the door. They asked him to take up an offering like he got that money, and that tape is 2 years old. If anybody went to church, I'd have been to church where the pastor told me one time, he said, I want a $50 line, I want a $100 line, I want a $250 line, Al Watch, I want you in the $1,000 line.
Hey, Mr. Walsh, let me clear up something, because that question stemmed from, and the reason why I asked, and you actually kind of answered it about the schools, like you said, you had Southern and you had another game that kind of didn't work, and you saw that Grambling and Prairie work. This stemmed from at the Orange Blossom Classic. That classic was originally a Florida A&M Classic. They switched it out. Florida A&M didn't come back a certain year, as in last year. So they brought North Carolina Central and they brought Alabama A&M. The ticket sales went down from 25,000 to 10,000.
Alabama State, right?
Alabama State.
Yeah.
Alabama State, I'm sorry, and North Carolina Central.
Yeah.
So they brought Florida A&M back. And what I have explained to people, one of the main reasons why all that's good, you still want to make sure that you have ticket sales, because to your point about sponsors, if there's nobody in the game, the sponsors are not going to sponsor. So
it's a double-edged sword. You got to have the attendance there to make the sponsor have interest to put dollars into the event also. So yeah, it's a double. You're right.
So that's what I was trying to explain. You can't just say economic, and that was the question about economic impact. The economic impact does not directly, it's an intrinsic number. That's not something that goes to your bottom line. That's something that, like you say, they don't even give it the correct number. The things that you're talking about is you made a package that's compelling for sponsors and for people to come. So the argument was, why did Florida A&M come back and why they replaced them? And I said, because simply they're bringing butts in the seats, and that's going to allow people, the sponsors, and make more money. So that's really where that question stems from.
In Camel, is in that situation, is Florida A&M a partner in the event, or they paid a flat fee?
No, they're paid a flat fee. They're paid a flat. The only partnership we have, like when Mr. Walters, like what we have the Florida Classic with us and Bethune-Cookman with the Florida Classic.
How and again, piggybacking off that, how much do teams does who you got in these classics? I know you've locked in now to Grambling and a Prairie View. Does teams matter in these classics? And if they don't matter, then you got to ask for, not like you say, you're taking over the Shreveport Classic, that you don't need 1 year, you're gonna need 3 years to build it up. Does two good teams like a Florida A&M and a North Carolina Central, who's border each other, would be a great match for the Orange City Classic and helping you promote that if you were the promoter of that game?
Now, to me, I need teams. First thing I look at is the alumni chapter. How many alumni members do you have in a chapter of a school? If you tell me there's no alumni chapter of North Carolina State in Florida, or wherever you might be, I wouldn't dare try to bring them in there.
Thank you.
Langston don't have alumni chapter in Shreveport, but Langston is in a driving distance to where the expenses aren't as great as them bringing somebody from North Carolina to Shreveport to play.
Right.
You know, Prairie View played, I think, Southern here. Prairie View don't have no chapter in Shreveport, you know, but Grambling has a chapter, and the Grambling probably have more alumni in this city than any chapter. Take all the black chapters and add them up. Grambling can outnumber them. Just like in Dallas, Prairie View got more graduates in Dallas than you took all the black institutions and add them up. And Prairie View outnumber them 4-1.
Yeah.
They might not be an active alumni member, but trust me, we got a lot of graduates from Prairie View, because years ago, that was the only place that we could go to college at a black institution was Prairie View. All your high school coaches and teachers and stuff back in the old days, that's where they went to, Prairie View, then Texas Southern, you know, then the Paul Quinns. And, you know, my game in Dallas was started with Langston and Wiley years ago. It wasn't no Prairie View and Grambling. You know, we chose to make it happen like this because of knowing what the makeup of the city was.
Mr. Walsh, let me ask you this right quick. I know Coach want to get in here. Even that game, I guess what Campbell is asking, I want to ask you a context question. Would the game be a better game if a school like UAPB played in the game rather than a smaller school like Langston?
Oh, no doubt about it. When we had first, I started out this classic game and the same thing happened in Houston with Texas Southern and Prairie View. I started the classic game here in Shreveport, and Eddie Robinson said, we're going to play Alcorn in Shreveport. And they cut a deal for Alcorn to come to Shreveport every year. We were drawing very well. Then Alcorn built a new stadium, and where Eddie Robinson was splitting the money with Alcorn. Then when Alcorn built a new stadium, they said, well, we want you to come to our stadium and open up our stadium, you know. And Alcorn came to Grambling to open up their stadium. I don't know who was first. I think Grambling built their stadium before Alcorn. And Eddie Robinson still split the gate on campus with Alcorn. So when Grambling was time for Grambling to come to Alcorn, they didn't want to split the gate. They said it's a conference game. We don't have to pay you nothing.
That's what happened to the Space City Classic with us.
Eddie Robinson got pissed off. He said, well, hell, we split the money with you when you came to our campus. We didn't have to pay you nothing. But everybody think Grambling was getting slicker than Eddie Robinson was a slickster and all this. Well, Eddie Robinson was the marquee, Eddie Robinson, Marino Castle, Gunslinger. They knew how to market the
Man,
schools.
that
You
that
know,
that was it. That was my question, Al. Is and now these days we into celebrity coaches. Getting celebrity coaches. How much do a coach does his celebrity status makes people watch, or his demeanor and how he handles himself makes people come? Because I know, I grew up watching Eddie Robinson and Marino Castle and them cats, and when they go into these arenas or to these talk shows, man, it goes from a comedy show to a political show. I mean, they put on a show. The coaches. That's the way I learned HBCUs by the coaches. How much does that help you as well promote the game?
well, it would definitely help me tremendous if they knew how to do that and what it takes to market that. But if you go get a pro football player to come in and he ain't never ever been at an HBCU school, he don't know what it's like. He don't know. Yeah, he's black. He's been around black people, but if he'd been over there at Ohio State, I'm not picking on nobody now. I said Ohio State, but I don't mean anything
But
by.
I'm a Buckeye, so go ahead. You are. You
You
got
know.
a Buckeye in the show.
But the thing is, he don't know the tradition. All he know is that he's coming to try to win games. You got to know the tradition of a HBCU school in order to be respected and be able to draw people. Now that's my feeling. Now I didn't go to a HBCU school. I went to Bland Junior College and I went to UT at Martin, and that was the biggest mistake that I regret today that I did not go to a HBCU school because I see these people. I see at Prairie View they have 50,000 people at their homecoming. I go every year just to just to see it and feel it and be around it. And I ain't been to UT Martin and I don't know when.
If I have
I,
my
I,
sword, I'll swear you in as HBCU honorary member.
Mhm. Well, I done been around them enough and promoted enough of their game, and
What
like
one?
it
Yeah,
was
one of
said that
our.
we.
I'm sorry, Al. I'm sorry to interrupt you. One of our guests wanted to say, please ask him in a negotiation with HBCUs, is it telling the inexperience or poor business acumen observation? What is I don't know if we're putting you on the spot, but you've dealt with a lot of them. So
Look,
when you go to,
you don't put me on the spot at all. Like my mother said, I'm 72 years old. I got the rights to say what I'm gonna say, and ain't nobody, what I'm saying is that I'm speaking my opinion, and it might not mean nothing, but this is my opinion, and I got to do what I got to do to put people in the stands out there. If I wasn't putting people in the stand, it's just like these football players. If they ain't winning, they ain't gonna be in the game. If I'm not winning to put people in the stand, they ain't gonna have me coming down to Grambling. They gonna kick me out of there and show me I-20 quicker than anything. You know. But you was asked, what was the question there?
question was, when you at the table with these people, because you started the conversation out about sometimes these presidents don't understand the negotiation of this game. When you do your negotiation, can you tell the inexperience on some of them and the lack of
Business acumen.
of when you negotiate?
Well, of course I can do that. I can tell an experience. I'm never at the table with a president. First of all, I meet the president after the fact, and they think they got a good deal. I think I got a good deal. It's just like anybody signing a contract. When you come to the radio station or you go anywhere, you sign a contract. You think you got a good deal, and like you said, you live out, and the expectations are bigger than what you thought it would. Should you go back to the table? You should be able to, but put the shoe on the other foot. If you the owner and you got a contract, everybody they could fire me tomorrow. They could fire any athlete what they want to tomorrow, and after years they'll forget about him. Look at Doug Williams. He won the Super Bowl, and the next year he was out of football. Now they got him back at the Redskins in the front office. So they evidently somebody knew that they was wrong. I got
always
I got
Grambling.
a concert in Washington D.C. and Doug Williams is on my radio spot promoting my show.
Wow.
It ain't just about it's how you use what you use and what you know to make people buy. So yeah, if somebody, a celebrity, come, and if he's gonna participate, but if he come there and think he too good to make a press conference, or he too good to go to the alumni meetings, it ain't gonna work. It's not gonna work.
We got a couple more callers, man. If y'all want to,
let's go
to the call.
Let me say this real quick. I knew when Grambling got rid of Doug after that third game of the year, that was his 25th year anniversary of winning the Super Bowl. When they should have been having some type of fundraiser around it, they were getting with him. So we go to the calls. I want to make sure I say that.
Caller with the last 45540. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from?
This is Chuck Hunt calling from Monroe, Louisiana. Good evening, you four, and enjoying the conversation. I'm learning a lot about Mr. Wash. I didn't know what you look like. Found what you look like. I heard so much about you, and I'm from the area where Grambling is located. Yeah, Grambling. I remember when that stadium opened in 1983 when they played Alcorn, and then we were at the game in 1993. That's the year I graduated from high school. I remember that's when Grambling, that's when Alcorn opened that stadium, Spinks Chasm Stadium back in 1993 when Steve McNair was playing. And it was a packed house in Lorman, Mississippi. And also, I'm going to land on these things. I remember we were at the game when Coach Eddie Robinson broke Bear Bryant's record back in 1985 at the Cotton Bowl. And I remember Charlie Wilson sung the national anthem. And that was quite an event, and having after winning with the fireworks and everything and the balloons, and then I remember the Grambling North Carolina A&T game. I remember during that time when it happened to Prairie View, and during that time I was a senior in high school, I listened to that game on radio. And I remember Connell Maynard was quarterback at North Carolina A&T because A&T ended up beating Grambling that year. And there was a lot of pandemonium at night. Mr. Wash, you probably answered that. What was going on at night? I mean, they said the people were running, and I think they were hearing some shooting, but I think somebody said it was the sound of a table had fallen on something. I don't know. It was a lot of like it was just a lot going on. I just didn't know what was going on. Yeah,
it was.
And I'll let Mr. Wash
you all take care.
answer that.
Okay.
It was in the concourse, in that hollow concourse where it was all concrete. One of the merchandising table collapsed, and when it collapsed, of course, somebody hollered gunshot, and one of the constables that was on security duty, and we stopped hiring the constables because of that. He pulled his gun and told everybody, "Get down!" And when he said, "Get down," them Negroes took out running. I think they ran over him, the gun, and everything else. It was not no gun. They was running, and I believe people might be still running today. It is funny now, but it wasn't funny at that time. But it was not any guns, and it was just an unfortunate thing that happened. And but other than that, we have not had any other incidents, to happen at our game since then, or even before then.
Hey, that's awesome. Caller, thank you for calling HBCU Coaches Corner. Caller with the last 4 of 9085. What's your name and where you calling from?
Yes, sir. This is Johnny P. calling from the great peach state of Georgia. And I just wanted to let Mr. Campbell know that North Carolina Central University does have an strong alumni chapter in South Florida. And that
and they still couldn't bring 15,000 people to the game.
But if we don't,
you still couldn't bring 15,000.
That's
people
all right. We spent 1,500 apiece at the hotels, eating and buying and libating at the bar. We didn't drive down 95 eating a bucket of chicken and then turn around going back the other way. And this is why people would want to have teams that will fly in from out of town, stay in top-notch hotels, and go across the street to the mall and spend money. Now, you might call that a little bougie, but in 2025, they call that economic impact and development. That's all I got to say. And I'll tell you what, just be ready for the Eagles and the Rattlers to line up again down there at the OBC after we get through with you on October 11th, 2025. Good night.
Mr. I hate that your time was wasted because of that, because here's what I'll say. If you made them money, they would have invited you back. Mr. Walsh can explain that to you. If you would make folks money, invite you back. And let me tell you something about Florida A&M people. We fly from all over the country because we got 80,000 alumni all over, double than what y'all got. So
Mr. Walsh, I'm sorry. Mr. Walsh, you okay? You know, our people don't sleep.
He putting that charge on that phone is what he's doing. I know what he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, charging my phone up.
Hey, Al, we go at it, man. We got folks stay all night with us.
Let me get this last one. Let me get this last call, and then we get back to the conversation. Caller with the last four of 4871. You're live on HBCU Coaches Corner. What's your name and where you calling from? Let me unmute him. Maybe that'll do it. Go ahead, brother.
This is Wake again. I called earlier.
Okay.
Here's a quick question. I talked to a lot of people about classics, still do. I've been in the game for a minute. Mr. Wash, I feel like people leave money on the table when they don't have this element in their classics. Do you advertise or generate any money from having a program book for your classic?
I can answer that. I generate money from the corporate sponsors because I put their ads in that program book. But what I've learned is that when you try to get somebody to sell those books in that stadium, then people ain't buying them books. So what I do, I give them away. You know, I give them away. Yes. I give them away. I put them out where people can get them, and then all my corporate sponsors. People ads can be seen, you know, even if they just take it home and they, laying in the bed and look at it and they see an ad, so yeah, I think I generate money, but a different way versus trying to sell them. Because if you pay somebody to sell them, what you gonna get for a program book? $5, If you go over that, then they're not gonna buy them. So you got to pay somebody to sell them. You got to pay somebody to haul them there. You got to pay somebody to clean up the boxes when you get through. So I just give them all away. And it's been so many times that I leave there with just as many books as I come there with, because I got to take them and take them to a dumpster. So I give them all away.
That's awesome, Mr. Watt.
So with the classics I worked with, we would have some kind of special of coupons in the book, so it'd give them a reason to keep it, and we gave them away as well, but we had a certain number. So we were expecting 50,000 to a game, we would do like 15 and just give them away. But we would make $1 million, $2 million on the book based on the classes I've worked with, SEC, Big Ten, all that kind of stuff. So I just want to put that on the table. A lot of people leave that out.
Well, you have corporate people and other type of people that's come into that stadium that spend a little bit, the household income might be a little bit stronger than the household income from the HBCU people. So I'd rather give them a program book and let them go home with it.
Right. So thanks again, Mr. Watts.
Thank you.
And the crew.
All right, thank you, Wake. Appreciate it, brother. Hey, Mr. Watts, you broke it down to us today. What I've learned about this promotion game is it's business, sure enough, right? But with all the creativity and ideas you have, it's also an art, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it's an art to keep from losing money. If you're not smart enough, it's gonna be you're not gonna be around. And the thing, and I've learned, just like he talk about program books and they talk about making up T-shirts and all. That ain't the business I'm in. I'm in the business to put the people in the stands. A bigger picture than that. So I mean, you learn what works, and it might work in other markets better than they work in a Dallas, but it just don't work for me.
Well, man, Coach, hey, look, I know you down in Shreveport, actually on business, and again, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out from the day I've ever first met you. You've been one to have your hand up instead of down, and I know you're out there at the Shreveport game. Do they have a date on that game yet?
Yeah, the game is August the 30th.
Oh, it's opening up the season.
Yeah, August the 30th. That's Langston, and we calling it the Shreveport Bossier Kickoff Classic.
Okay. And then you also before that you still involved with the NFL. What does they call that? The Hall of Fame game.
Yeah, the Hall of Fame. And see,
Yes.
another thing is that we thought about it. Everybody says Labor Day, make it a Labor Day class. You got too many Labor Day classics already.
Right.
We got to be more creative than that. And my hat's off to Trayvon, and he came up. I guess he came up with that name. They told me the name of the game, but I'm gonna make it work, and I think it's a brilliant idea and a brilliant name. And the one thing that I want to say, I want to thank all three of y'all for having me on here. And it's the first time I ever been on a show for 2 hours, 11 minutes, and 12 minutes.
Hey,
So that goes to show me that y'all are serious about HBCUs. Y'all not just out here doing it just to be doing it, or you wouldn't be on the phone this long. And but I appreciate it. And any one of y'all come to my game, y'all can be my guest. I pick up your hotel. I put you in that Jack Daniels room. You know what that is. So
Now you can't be giving all my gifts away, man.
well, hey, I mean, for what we've done tonight, I think everybody deserve it, and y'all doing a great job. I want y'all to continue, not just my game, everybody's game.
Hey, Mr. Walsh, can I ask you? I know we wanted to go, but I think this is such an important question because you're a businessman, and in this climate, somebody asked, have you dealt with racism doing business, and how did you handle it? If there were situations that people, because you were a black man and you brought something and maybe they didn't respect you, or maybe you felt that they were discriminating against you, because I think for a lot of young people, they don't understand some of the pressures that they're going to have to endure, like you had to, starting off young and now into the 2025. Can you kind of talk? I think that's a great question. Can you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, no doubt about it. I've dealt with racism, and even in the concert side, they don't let me buy white talent. I can't go get Garth Brooks or none of them. They would not book a country and western act to me.
Wow.
But white people can go book black acts, and they'll charge more money than what we would charge for it, because they know that, we gonna pay it. But in talk about racism, I dealt with racism with this game. Like I told a story in a meeting today for the breakfast meeting. I remember when they came to me and they said that SMU is renovating a stadium, so they want to use the Cotton Bowl for that season to play their games in, and they was playing 5 or 6 games at the Cotton Bowl, and it just one of them happened to be on our game. So one of the board members, which was white, for the Cotton Bowl, he said, "Now we need that stadium for that game." I said, "Well, sir, if you need the stadium, I'm pretty sure I can go down to Houston and I think they'll welcome me. And I moved the game down to Houston this year, and hopefully we'll come back into the stadium after take SMU move their game. There was one other white man in the building named Pete Shinkles, and he just died this past year. Pete Shinkles, they all went on the parking lot to talk. Pete Shinkle came back and said, Al Wash, let me say this to you. He said, we done everything possible to help you market this game and build this game. And I've been supportive of you, and you're not moving this game. He said, I don't care. He told the man that was in the room, he said, I don't care if SMU move and don't play the game at the stadium. He said, they was playing Texas for that game that same weekend. They were playing, SMU was playing Texas. And they said, we got to work it out. And I said, we can't move our game. They said, well, what do you think about a double hitter? I said, well, that might work if you can clean the stadium up and you want SMU and Texas to play first, and it's not fair to y'all leave me a dirty stadium where my people got to come in there with the cups and the ice and the beer spill and all that. And they said, we'll bring in extra people and clean it up, and we'll make it work for you. And I said, okay, and what else you gonna do? He said, what else you want? I said, how about free rent? They thought about it for a minute. And they said, we'll do that, you know. And so, and it was during the fair, and so I knew what they was doing to everybody else, and it was just the right time for me to ask that question. They gave it to me, and I haven't paid rent since, you know. So
you took it out of your budget.
Yeah, there is racism in it, and it's racism in anything. It's racism in just living today.
So I gotta ask you this, Mr. Wash, as you telling that story, because that was an amount of genius there in that moment that I don't think a lot of people recognize. You chose not to be defiant in that moment. You chose to be accommodating, cooperating, and letting them know in a real subtle way that if I take this game to Houston, y'all may not never get it back.
That's absolutely right.
Is that the way you dealt with most of the racism? You know, defiance.
Yeah, let me tell you something. Just like we're different from, you know, black people are different. I'm different from you. You different from Johnny Cole, and vice versa. All of us. White people are different too. So, you know, you got to take it, and you got to think on real quick, and you got to think. Don't just jump off and be pissed off and say something negative, make you want to say something you regret. I sit there and I think a minute. And when I think, I be the thought of something that would be to my advantage. And that would be something that they wouldn't give it to me because, you know, if I wasn't in this position. So I'm going to ask for something that I know that I wouldn't get. I wasn't going to get no free rent just going out there and say I need free rent, even though they was giving Texas, Oklahoma free rent and giving them $1 million apiece. You know, Texas, Oklahoma, and the brilliant thing that I see about Texas OU, they both have beautiful stadiums. And they both chose to play that game in the Cotton Bowl. They can make more money in the year that they play at home than they can at the Cotton Bowl. But one thing that I see that they're doing, they making a payday, probably somewhere in the neighborhood, I would think about 15 million or better that year. Well, they might make 20 million at every other year. So they come out better by being cooperative and making things work for them. And that's what we got to do as a family of Black people. Think, stick together, and know what your worth is, you know. And
they could move that game to AT&T Stadium as well, huh?
Oh yeah, well, but they don't want to play. They don't want to play on grass. I mean, they don't want to play on turf. They want to play. They like playing on natural grass, and they like the element of being. They don't want to be in a dome. They like the element of being outside.
They want to be able to fly over. They want you to see them in there. They want to see green, orange on one side, burgundy on the other.
Yeah,
Let
well,
me ask
it's
you.
not,
Let me
it's
ask you
not the
this,
same.
because I know we've been long and we long-winded, and I've always thought that they do world concerts for hunger and world concerts for fathom. And why is a black, and maybe this is something that I could put in your bucket list. Why we don't do as blacks, all the great black artists we have can't come together. I know we came together for We Are the World. Most of them was black. Why we can't come together for monies for the HBCU schools? I know we always talk about the doors going to be closed and it never happened. Why we can't come together as black artists and do a world tour for monies for the HBCU schools?
Because my personal opinion, because I feel like they managed by white management, the
Right.
majority of them, and they don't see the value of it. And I think that if they do that, they feel like they artists is going to lose a little bit to the white community because they raising money for black schools, HBCUs, or black anything, you know. So, I mean, let's face it, I mean, I can't even go buy uh, uh, Beyonce today, even though I don't know if she's managed by black or white, but I would think that she's doing it, but with her husband or whomever. But you would think that, raising money for blacks, hell, they ain't doing nothing to give us any dates on. If it was me, I said, look, and if I was popular and I know I can go fill up whatever, a theater or arena, and I tell them, look, you got to give some of my black promoters that came up with me, that kept me and made me where I'm at today, give them a show or two. Let them make some money. They don't do that. We are the worst of sticking together. But you see, white people, they raise money all the time, like you said.
They use benefit concerts anytime they want to raise some money.
Man, they raise money for dogs and everything, but we won't raise nothing. And we got more people starving over here than people across the overseas, We got homeless,
So you saying it's possible that it can happen? It's just don't
Yeah,
happen.
definitely it's possible that it can happen.
Mr. Watch, I got one last question to ask you, and then we're gonna let you go. I promise this is the last one. Last one I'm gonna ask Lick. If you were given the opportunity to do a game between two schools, what two schools would you choose and where would you play the game?
Yeah, that's a hard one now. I've always thought highly of Florida A&M, and I've never had them at all. I think they would be one. Now, who would I choose for them to play? It just kind of be, it definitely would be a swag school, uh, but I know they play each other already. And where would I want them to play? Tom Joyner and I had an idea one time of doing a classic game in Miami, but that's when he started doing the cruise. And, so those two, we had to eliminate either the cruise or the game. And we chose the cruise was just negotiating with the cruise ships, and they were
Smart.
about making money anyway. And we know we were going to have a headache dealing with, even though Tom was raising money for HBCU. So he decided to, and the other thing is he had a white boy that was running his company at that time. So I think that had something to do with it too. And they chose to go the cruise way versus going the HBCU way. But I would think I think the right teams, you know, in the right city. I think another thing we need to do is that there should be a classic game in every major city, and not two classic games in a city. Some markets like Atlanta could stand to do two because of the population there, but I would hate to see another classic game come to Dallas. It's not going to work. Two classic games go to Houston. It's not going to work. Uh, and that's just Texas alone. So I would say a Florida A&M, and you know, my loyalty is always with a Grambling or a Prairie because they've been loyal to me. But I don't think that neither one of them have the caliber of team that Florida A&M has today. And we just have to pick the right city in order for that to happen.
So do you think I could make a quarter if I took FAMU and Jackson State and played them in Atlanta?
I think you'll make a whole lot of money for that one.
Well, you know, Tennessee State and Florida A&M. You know, I've coached in that game several times, man.
I want Jackson State. I don't want no Tennessee State.
In Tennessee
Well,
State,
not right now. Not right now.
Tennessee State, though, the institution probably got just as many white students over there as black, so they don't draw at home. So why would you take them anywhere?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and they were food for. I ain't gonna say fool. Excuse me. I'm sorry about saying that, but I think they were crazy from leaving Memphis. You know, but the thing is that you know, to take it to Atlanta, I think that would be real huge. I mean, even when you go to the West Coast, you know, I mean, you took a Florida A&M and a Prairie View to the West Coast. I think that'll work because Texas people, you got to know where the people migrated from years ago, and go to Chicago. You want a Mississippi school to play in Chicago.
Jackson State, probably.
You go to Detroit, you know, you want an Alabama school to go to Detroit. You know, to come to Texas, we want a Texas and a Louisiana school. You know, there are cities that draw because of the population years ago when they were going to these factory jobs, when they were going to the East Coast, and you know, I mean, people won't ask me all the time. I've had offers to play games in Philadelphia, but there's black schools in that area up there, and so why would I take somebody from another part of the country to go way to Philadelphia? And first thing people are gonna say to black alumni for these schools, I'm gonna say, well, hell, why they didn't use us? You know, so everything is about timing. So it's just what could work at that time.
Yeah. Well, shoot, man, that brings us to end, Coach. I appreciate your time. I know you're gonna sleep well. Hopefully, you took care of your business there in Shreveport. We look forward to visiting you. You know, usually on the Monday, we there at the State Fair Classic at the media day, and then of course the game. So you know, I appreciate all that, and look forward to you, man, and continue your success. And you'll definitely talk after this, and have a safe trip back to Dallas.
All right, appreciate it, and I'll be here a couple of days now. I'm gonna be beating the bush, and that gentleman that was on the phone in Monroe, y'all tell Grave Digger to call me out of Monroe, Louisiana. I can't even buy advertising, and he ain't sent me nothing. You know, you gotta beg these people, man. So I appreciate y'all. I love it. Anytime y'all need me, I'm there. And whatever you need, you know I'm there for you, Johnny.
I got you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Watts. We appreciate your time.
All right, thank you.
Whew.
Man, that was a fascinating for me, being that he's a pioneer, a businessman, somebody who supports HBCUs. That was truly a treat, and I hope you guys enjoyed as much as I did.
Man, that's my guy, man. I mean, we have some intimate moments, and stay over his house, and he's really, really a personal friend of mine, and he's about his business, boy. And look, on game day, he like a lion, man. You don't bother him on game day now, unless he sold a whole bunch of tickets before then, and met his quota. So it's been a pleasure. Well, Bishop, it was your night tonight.
No, listen, well, see, I had to show you. See, Rocky, you can still ask them questions without everybody getting mad at you. See how that works? now, I know Mr. Walker wasn't ready to put on his chin strap when he dealt with me. But that's okay. We still gave him a lot of respect. You know what I mean? But hey, when people want to ask, because honestly, you have these things, and he does it the right way. And I respect that. But again, for Jackson State, I mean, and again, like I said, I understand he has a personal relationship, so there's no disrespect to that. But like I said, Jackson State said, hey, man, we can make $1 million sitting at home. You know what I mean? We can make $1 million sitting at home.
But the tradition, man, Coach, it kills the tradition. And here's one of the things that I share. Okay, when you doing these games, you get the fat. It's like a triangle, right? All right, if I reach this, y'all make this, I'm the promoter, I get this. Then as the game grows, the triangle turns upside down. It's like this now. All right, the more money you make, promoter, the more money the schools get. Does that make sense?
But that's not what was happening. That was not what was happening, though, Coach.
Right, but as we spoke to the guy, that when he sat down with these people at the table, they don't understand that. All they thinking in their mind is they getting a payday. You know what I mean? Oh, you're going to give us $250,000? Okay, we'll take that. And as you said, okay, then what if we go 30,000 over? They don't think, these people who's in these negotiation rooms don't think that way. And you got to think that way and make it happen. Say, okay, you said we're going to make this, you get this with all this. And as the game grow, now you get your little piece, but we taking this piece.
That's a partnership. Let's think about this though. As we talk about it, Al Walsh was clear about it. Prairie and Grambling pay their own way to the game.
Right.
I mean,
with the money that they make. So they got.
What do you mean? No. They pay their own money to get to the game. The only split is the breakdown. There's nobody. Al Walsh doesn't pay them before the game for travel.
Right.
You understand? Right. They pay their way to the game, right? And then at the end of it, everybody takes on their expenses to get there. And this is our expenses for advertising and all this. And then Al takes 24 and then splits the rest.
Well, Rocky, you know why he does that, right? Why they do that, right? Because of the way the split is set up. Because if the split was set up where you had to pay the expenses out, they would net less. So what he said was the school said, we're going to budget already for the game, so we don't have to take out less expenses. Because if we don't budget, because again, everybody has a budget, a travel budget. So it's already in our travel budget. So we would just utilize our travel budget. And let's be clear, Grambling is what? How many hours away from Dallas?
2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. Right. Same thing with Prairie View. So
Prairie
for them,
they look at it like
4.5. Grambling is about 3 hours. It's literally the same distance. I think both of them about 3.5 hours away from Dallas.
Florida A&M or somebody, again, because that would be too. Or let's just say any school in Mississippi, they might not take that deal. They might And also too, this is a game that they play every year. So no matter what.
Right.
So that's why a lot of factors work in to why that game works, because like you said, it's a game that they have to play every year no matter what. That game is going to be played no matter what.
Right. And here's where the money go off the rail at is when you take that game not like a regular game, and then now you almost double your travel party. And that's when the money start getting into what you make. And I think sometimes schools do that when they play in the classics. Instead of going to regular games, when classics come, everybody want to bring everybody, and sometimes you just can't do that.
Well, again, I think that 5/20/28 payday that those schools get incentivize them to, you know.
See, he get a 26, and they each take 34% of the.
No. What I'm saying is, like last year, it was 50. This game made over $1 million, and he paid out 500,000.
Yeah, because of the percentage, he goes by.
Yeah.
Each team gets 34%, and he takes 26.
Yeah. And I think it's a good deal for Mr. Wash. I think it's a good deal for a school. And he said something this is just good business. They both agree on an accountant, and then Al says he even audits the accountant, and I'm sure the school will audit the accountant as well. So It's just great business, man. It's just a great business deal the way it's structured.
Right. And see all these other deals, the Southern Heritage Classic. It was like you said, Bishop. I know Fred personally, and I think that the way they went about that deal, it could have been settled. You know what I mean? A lot better than not playing at all.
Well,
the only one who really lost in that deal was Tennessee State, because as you said, Jackson State, they might have not can make the money they lost on that game totally, but they can go home and make a whole bunch of money.
Well, I think Mr. Campbell said this a couple of years ago, maybe even 3 years ago. He said the real reason why that game was no longer played is because Dion gets points on home games. And as long as that game is played in Birmingham, Memphis, he can't get points on that game.
Well, they looking to get back to that game now.
Beg your pardon?
I said they're trying to get back in that game now. They're actually trying to negotiate now.
The coach doesn't get points on that game though.
Yeah,
I don't. Does TC Taylor get points on attendance?
I doubt it.
Do you know?
Yeah, I doubt it.
Yeah, I doubt it. No. That's a one-time Deion Sanders contract.
All right, guys. Hey, I'm done, man. I really enjoyed it today, man. We can wrap this thing up, and it's all past. It's for all of us. It's past our bedtime. I'm out.
Yes. All right, man. All right, come, Coach. I'm out too, man. I appreciate it. Everybody listen to the show. Continue to tune in. We will have a HBCU Coaches Corner YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. We're moving up the show in a new era, and we'll keep you in touch with what goes on with the newness of our show. Thank you, and continue to bless you, and God bless you.
Hey, Coach, we're not going to let them do. We're not going to break tradition, Coach. We're not going to break tradition.
Yeah.
You got a tie knot, Coach.
If you feel yourself at the end of the rope with all these tarps, you want to tie a knot and hold on tight, because ain't nobody bad like you.